I'd like to welcome everyone. I'm Tracy Moffat, the chair of the AGM education team, and with me today is Jennifer Morton, our director of marketing and sales for the AGM. I'd like to thank you all for taking part in today's education webinar, presented and made possible by RepSpark, and we've got Megan here from RepSpark. They're a gold level vendor partner and sponsor of the AGM. So I hope that you've all come ready to hear some great ideas on emerging brands, especially using RepSpark's community, among other ideas you're going to hear today. Just a few notes before we get going. Please keep yourself muted during the presentation to avoid background noise. And I'd like to also extend a warm welcome to those who may not be familiar with the AGM, because we do have some people just from the RepSpark side of things with us today. The AGM is an international association dedicated to strengthening the golf merchandising profession and the golf industry through educational platforms. Our members, I'm just going to brag, our members and vendor partners are among the very best in the industry. Jennifer will put a link, she doesn't know she's doing this, but now she does. She's going to put a link in the chat for anyone wanting to know more about the AGM and our programs and our exciting certified retail manager accreditation program. And even more important, are going to be awesome annual retail conference being held Tuesday, January 24th in Orlando, the day before the PGA show, and our product preview that night. And RepSpark will be there. So if you have further questions, Megan will be there to answer them for you that evening and on the at the show, of course. Now on to our program and our panel of experts, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves. So Megan, I'm going to ask you to start as our sponsor today.
Great. Yes. My name is Megan with RepSpark. We provide a B2B e-commerce platform for brands and buyers to connect and transact. We will be working with the PGA show as well this year to provide an exclusive community for them. And yeah, we just love to be part of AGM, helping to educate both brands and buyers on how best to work together. And we thought that this would be a really fun topic. And, you know, a lot of times new brands that we're working with, you know, they on the flip side, they say, how do we be found? How can we be found? How can buyers find us? What can we be doing to be getting in front of these new pro shop merchandisers or buyers? And then on the flip side, you know, it's always interesting talking with Andrew and Alicia before and prep for this, just hearing, you know, how they look for new and emerging brands. And, you know, new and emerging brands, I think we need to think of it a little bit differently. It's not necessarily just those small brands that are moving, you know, just new in this space or just moving from, you know, consumer direct only into also wholesale, but also for a lot of these established brands, how do you get yourself into these new establishments and new pro shops and new golf courses as well. So I'm excited. Alicia and Andrew probably will do most of this, but we're excited to bring this opportunity for you to hear from them.
I think we just lost Alicia too. So Andrew, to you next. Andrew's the PGA Director of Retail Operations at Oak Hill Country Club in Rochester, New York.
Yes, hello everybody. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited. This is it's a pretty exciting topic for me because my favorite part of buying for the shop every season is not only going to the PGA show and seeing all of these emerging brands, but finding them through RepSpark community or just, you know, the day-to-day operations of having reps reach out and kind of introduce yourself. And, you know, it's a large part of our shop at Oak Hill, making sure that we have the right product assortment for our ladies, juniors, and men, not to mention our tea gifts and events. And so we're going to branch out into all of those and how we use and find emerging brands. A little bit about me. This is the end of my second full season as the buyer for Oak Hill Country Club. Prior to this, I was at Kinloch Golf Club in Richmond, Virginia for a few seasons. And it's a special time here at Oak Hill because next season we'll be hosting the PGA Championship. So it does bring its challenges and opportunities, but we'll kind of dive into that a little bit later.
All right, and Alicia Lane, the AGM Director of Retail at Quail West Golf and Country Club in Naples, Florida. And I don't even know if she knows this, but she was just appointed Secretary Treasurer of the AGM at a board meeting on Monday. So yay, Alicia, please introduce yourself. Somehow you're
There.
muted. There you
Now,
go.
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be on the board. Alicia Lane, Director of Retail at Quell West. I'm here my 8th year. I've been in the business now 22 years. Is that right? 22 years? It seems so long. I love what I do, and what I love the most, I think, is that every day is different. I am part of the education team for AGM. I've been on the education team now for, I think, 3 years with Tracy. I was a regional board member for the last 2 years, and I am super, super happy now to go onto the national board. And I think what I'm most looking forward to is I really want to make a difference in how the AGM is perceived and moving forward, and making a difference for all buyers and merchandisers. And I love what I do, and I want other people to have that same passion for what I do. As far as emerging brands, I'm one of those people. I love to dip my feet in with new brands, and I love to meet new vendors. I love to bring in new vendors, and I'm excited to share how I do that.
Awesome. All right. So first thing I think we need to do is define exactly what is an emerging brand. So I did some research, Google, right? So Google says an emerging brand is a newer company or even product trying to break into an established market. This could be a brand that is just a few years old, solves a consumer problem differently than established brands, and even uses different marketing strategies like social media and influencer campaigns. And then who knew there was a branding dictionary? But yes, there is. And it says, emerging brand is a brand which, despite being small or new, is recognized as having strategic status because it has a potential to become a future strong brand. So to my panel of experts there, Andrew, I'm going to start with you. How would you define an emerging brand? And do you think it's the same for every club or different?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And we talked about it a little bit, prepping for this. I think the important thing to remember is, as buyers, we see a lot of different brands, whether through the PGA show, attending trade shows, or, having reps reach out to us directly. So we get a lot of, see-through into various aspects of the industry, whereas our customers may not get that same insight. So brands that we've known for, years now, like Grayson, which is kind of becoming more and more popular every year. The Peter Millars of the world, everybody knows, but because we've seen Grayson grow and grow, they might not be an emerging brand to us, but to our customers who may have never seen them, they may be an emerging brand, or some new vendor. Another great example that I would use is even Lululemon. Now, it's a bit subjective, but if you view Lululemon as an emerging vendor in the golf space, they have a worldwide brand to themselves, but they've just now started dipping their toes into golf wholesale. So from that aspect, it could be considered to be an emerging brand. So I think it's depending on, what audience you're looking at it from, whether you're looking at it from a buyer's perspective or a customer, or even an industry as a whole.
Great. Alicia, your thoughts? Is it something that's just new to your shop, or do you agree with Andrew?
No, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with that. But I think for me, an emerging brand is not specific to clothing. It's also specific to accessories. We have to open ourselves up to emerging into different categories in our shop. We can't stay focused just on clothing. So I really emerge deeply into the accessory side, to the children's side, to areas that you don't necessarily always see go deeper in a pro shop. I step outside of just golf. I go into fitness, I go into lifestyle, I go into lots of different accessories. And I think that's where you really get into a new area of emerging brands. And it's not just golf. So I think that's where you really set yourself apart from other pro shops, is you don't just do golf.
Megan and RepSpark, are they denoted as an emerging brand? Do they have a little star by them, or is it just a new line on RepSpark? How would you define it on your platform?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. So there's definitely those emerging brands. They're new. They're, 1 or 2 years old. Maybe they've been at the PGA show for 1 year. They're typically, smaller. They're trying to break in, not just into golf, but just into apparel, into wholesale, into not just selling direct to consumer. So there's a handful not a handful, there's a lot of brands coming in that way, and a lot of them have some really unique, interesting products. And then there's that set of emerging brands who maybe are new to the vertical. So you have like the Salt sunglasses, who were typically more of a brand that was surf, action sports, things like that, but they're doing really well in golf. Or, you know, Olakai footwear, they are sandals. They were sandals and slippers and shoes typically, and now they've, you know, moved into golf too. So I think it's a little bit of both. There's just the whole new brand across the board, and then there's the new to a specific vertical. And we have a lot of brands that are doing a great job, kind of on both sets, and it's really fun to see them grow.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so Alicia, back to you. Why do you need emerging brands? What do you look for, and why would you carry them?
Well, you can't get stagnant in what you carry in your pro shop. When your members walk through the door, your audience, well, for me, my audience doesn't change. Like at a resort, your audience changes all the time. When you're a private country club, your audience stays the same pretty much all the time. So your product mix has to be new. It has to be exciting. It has to be innovative. And in order to find that, you have to be willing to try something new. You have to be willing to try a new no-name brand that nobody's ever heard of. And you have to be willing to rotate that into the tried and true Peter Millar's, to the tried and true Bell and Keys. So you have to open up space in your floor for these new emerging products. I call it throwing spaghetti. You're going to throw some spaghetti, it's going to stick, and some of it is not. And that's okay. But I like giving, for instance, the best way for me to try a new emerging product is I have my reps who are honest as a day is long, and I trust them, and they pick up a new product and they say, hey, I have this new product. You want to give it a try in your shop? I know from my relationship with them, I can bring in their product. If it does well, that's great. If it doesn't do well, I can trust that they can take it back to their company and say, listen, this isn't the right fit. Can we return some of this, all of this? Can we go back to the drawing board? Can you make some changes to your product? And then next year it emerges as even better product because they've been willing to make changes. So, you know, because my audience doesn't change, that's why I'm willing to bring in new product and cycle it in pretty frequently.
Do your members look for new products? Or are they like,
Oh yeah, they ask me all the time. They come in, hey, what's new this time? What do you have? What's new? What's exciting? What'd you find this time? I get asked all the time because they know I do it.
So you've trained them well.
Yes.
Andrew, how about you? Why do you have them? What do you look for?
Yeah, Alicia's exactly right. You know, our members, we're about 1,400 strong. So we have core brands that they always want to come back to, but they also want to see that newness. They want to see a rotation. They want to see what is the up and coming, you know, what's trendy. So for that reason, you know, I would say about 10% of my open to buy every year is going to be dedicated to new vendors. It may be a little more depending on the season, but we always want to make sure that those new vendors, those emerging brands are kind of forefront when you step into the shop. That way, the first thing you see is going to be a new product, and then you know where all of your core products are in relation.
So do you look for them to fit a specific niche in your shop, or just what you like? I mean, how do you decide?
Yeah, traditionally, every brand that we carry in the golf shop does have what I define as a niche role. You know, Donald Ross might be a larger size. Grayson might be a trendier product, you know, a little more outlandish for some people. And Peter Millar just might be a good brand that people can gravitate towards. So when you look at each brand individually in your product assortment, you know, I try to find little holes where I think we might not be finding that demographic in our shop, and then looking for any kind of emerging brand or new vendor that we haven't carried before.
And then when does it get to become part of your core assortment?
You know, for me, it's all about sell-through in the first season. If it moves, people like it. If I don't have to discount it and I have, you know, less than 20% left at the end of the season, it means we did something right. And we probably did find that role that it's, you know, there's room for it in the shop. Now, on any given season, I have 100% of the floor already covered. So it means that we might have to cut somewhere else. But at the end of the year, I do a review of all of our new vendors. And if it looks like there's good growth potential, if I see the line for next year and it looks like they have some new and innovative products coming out, then there's a good chance that we'll bring it back.
Alicia, same for you, or do you have different criteria to get it in your shop permanently?
No, it's definitely the sell through, and then I'll bring it back. you know, the first time I brought in Johnny O here, some of the members kind of scoffed at it. They're like, what is this? What are we, a surfing company now? Because the logo was on the chest. It was a surfing. And I had Vineyard Vines here at that time too. And I go, yes, and we're a whaling company also. So put it in perspective like that, they're like, oh, I see that now. So if you kind of put it in perspective, they get it. And now Johnny O is probably, it's in my top 3 of sell through. It's a great product. So it doesn't hit my sell rack. It's one of those products that I have great sell through with it.
All right, so when you bring all this new stuff in there, how do you present it in your shop? Do you do something special with it? What do you do?
It just depends on what I have going out at the time and how the color stories work together. If I can get it on the front table, I will. Otherwise, it'll be in the front 3rd area. You know, I have a front 3 area that it can hit. If I can get the very front table, I will. Otherwise, it'll be the front 3 area that it'll make its presentation. Yeah.
In one line at a time, or do you do multiple?
Oh no, I'll do multiple. I've got a big enough shop. I can do multiples. Yeah. Especially like on December 2nd, I did my big annual holiday event. And it was like Black Friday at Walmart here. It was just crazy busy. So on events like that, I will put out 3 or 4 or 5 new lines. And I think that's a great way to introduce them because everyone is looking for new gifts, new items, Christmas. And I had a lot of new items out that night and I had fantastic sell through. I sold almost 40, I did 44,000 in 3 hours in stock sales. And as of right now, I've only had $3,000 in returns and that'll be it. And some of them were just size exchanges. So, and I haven't rang through that, but from my calculations, it was an additional about 9,000 in special orders from the trunk shows. So bringing in trunk show and new specialty items for events like that, it's a home run. It's a great way to introduce them because people are in a buying spirit. Well, I actually brought them in for stock that evening, but I had trunk show too, but I had them in my stock that evening. People are in the buying mood for those events and they're ready to spend money. So I love having new items in for those nights.
Andrew, how about you? How do you present them in your shop? Or what do you do?
Yeah, I think Alicia's right. This is the perfect time of year to try, new brands, emerging brands. We brought in 3 new brands this holiday season. I want to make sure that anytime I'm bringing in a new brand, I'm giving it 100% of, the position in the golf shop. So I'll put them straightforward. I'll put them on the front table, give them a rack too. I want to make sure it's the first thing that people see. That way there's no reason why if it doesn't sell, then it wouldn't have sold otherwise. So bringing it in during the holiday season when people are looking to buy, like Alicia mentioned, and then putting it out forefront is kind of exactly what we did. I mean, for us, we'd never carried Allen Payne sweaters before. The sweaters, if they're not going to sell during the holiday season, won't sell during the summer months. So it's proven to be very beneficial for us. I think we sold out 2 weeks ago. So next year I'll bring them in, I'll do it again, the entire thing, and I'll double the buy. So it's a good time of year for us to try some new things. And if it doesn't sell, which is always the worst case scenario, we always, because of our off season, we unload during January, February ahead of next season. So I have kind of an exit strategy.
Talk a little bit about how you use emerging brands for corporate gifts, because I know that's something you do a lot of at your facility.
Yeah, I like to use as many different kinds of vendors as I can, and knowing that from a stock inventory standpoint, we'll only ever be able to carry so many brands in our golf shop. I looked for other ways to incorporate brands that I think were up and coming that might be able to come into inventory later, replacing an existing brand, but kind of test them out now. And we have a large membership base. I mentioned earlier, it's almost 1,500 members at this point. A lot of them own local companies kind of in that 50 to 200 employee size range. And that's perfect for me because they don't have internal sourcing departments that do uniforms and client gifting. So a lot of times I will reach out to them, and as part of our corporate gifting in the holiday season, as well as just general, corporate sales during the full season, during the summer months, I will incorporate emerging brands, whether it's through microsites or, trunk shows that they do for an event that I'll show up and host, or, just giving them the full product availability and showing them what is possible. So I'll incorporate a Calliope with a Peter Millar for ladies side and men's side, or, vice versa, to make sure that they see that, we carry more than just what's in the golf shop. We can kind of expand, and it's been proven very beneficial.
So there's a question that I'm going to ask you, because, and then Alicia's got to answer the same thing. How many brands do you stock in your shop? So just talk men's right now, because that's what you were talking about now. How many men's brands?
Yeah, in our upcoming spring season, we're carrying over 9 men's brands, and I'll bring in 3 rotating vendors. So these are emerging brands or new vendors that we hadn't carried before. And I've got one specific table and rack that we call our rotating or new vendor space. And every 1 month we bring in 80 units, and the next month is a new vendor, and then a new vendor after that, and then basically we work that in through the season. So every month you're seeing, or it's almost bi-weekly sometimes, you're seeing new brands, new products in the golf shop. It's not always apparel. Sometimes it's accessories, like Alicia mentioned earlier. Sometimes it's youth. I mean, it's a great way for us to just change the way that the displays look, and that product assortment changes.
How large is your shop square footage wise?
It was 1,750 this year square feet, and then we just expanded to we opened up a little space for our PGA Championship apparel. So it's about 2,200 right now.
Alicia, how big is your shop, and how many men's lines?
Our shop is 2,450 square feet. I have about 14 men's lines currently. I think upwards I've probably had 17 to 18 at one time. But I don't bring in large collections. I bring in smaller, and I turn them more often. So I don't go like the only brand I go really deep in is Peter Millar, just because it sells so rapidly. The deepest I go is like 72 in the other collections.
That's a good point that you bring up. We didn't mean to cut you off there. We have a lot of guest play too. So like you said about resorts earlier, we bring in really deep collections. I might bring in 500 units of Peter Millar in February, because guests don't care if it's 8 or 10 units in a size run. So once that guest play starts up, it's less of a member purchase and more of a a resort based guest play. You don't see the same person twice.
Yeah.
Alicia, how many members does Pro West have?
We have 500 golf memberships, and we have around 400 house memberships.
Yeah, so interesting that two very kind of distinct buying strategies based on just the sheer number of members and the amount of guest play that Andrew's Club obviously has quite a lot more. Andrew, I'm going to stick with you just because we got another question that I want you to answer right now too. You mentioned an exit strategy, stuff that doesn't sell. Talk more about this. Someone wants to know how to.
Yeah, I mean, I think exit strategies are a buyer's best friend, because it's going to happen eventually. You're either going to buy something that doesn't sell, or you're going to have, I mean, look at COVID. If you had a lot of inventory during COVID with no exit strategy, then there's an issue in it itself. But anytime that I look at a new vendor that I know has some inherent risk, I always figure what is the best way that I'll get rid of this if it doesn't sell at my full margin. Honestly, I would expect that most brands that I bring in that we put our logo on will, sell through at least 75%. But I do have, Black Friday sales, employee sales. I host employee staff sales bi-monthly. That way we can alleviate some of our inventory that's been on hand for more than 90 days. And not only does it help our inventory levels and make sure that we can bring in new product, but it also, it's a great way to get staff morale up when you bring in product that's new and refreshing and they haven't seen it and it's 70% off. It's great for, the 300 employees that we have here to get that opportunity. And it's it's kind of it helps everybody. But whatever your exit strategy is, and make sure you have one before you buy to make sure that you can always turn over that inventory in some regard.
Alicia, how about you? Exit strategies.
We do end of season. The more you buy, the more you save for the members, which they eat up. Like if you buy one item, it'll be $40. If you buy 2 or 3 items, it goes to $35. If you buy 4 or more, it'll go to $25 per item. So we rid a lot of items with that. And then after that, we do an employee sale. to rid items. And then we have a rep here that does a liquidation show. So then we'll take the remaining items and liquidate them at the Hyatt liquidation show to get rid of them. And then after that, the club allows, they do X amount for us to do write-offs every year if we need to.
And that's a good point too, that she brings up with a lot of clubs are starting to budget for a write-off allowance for that stuff that just simply won't sell. And by now it's like so shop worn, it's never going to sell. Right now that we're going to come back to our topic here today, but thank you for sharing that because that's a great question. Megan, when Andrew was chatting about corporates, I couldn't help think about your microsites. How could that incorporate into these emerging brands for like corporate gift giving or even for an event? How could you see those two going together?
Yeah, I mean,
show us one.
Yeah, sure. I have a couple. So there are a couple ideas that people are using our microsite product for. For example, you know, a lot of sorry, hold on, it's got too big here.
Right.
So pop-up.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, great. So pop-up shops like Andrew was talking about are becoming really popular. Holiday pop-up shops, for example, you know, people being able to put together a selection of product where the members don't necessarily, or the club doesn't necessarily have to stock the product, but the members can still shop that product. We're seeing this more and more in the pop-up shops where for example, this brand put together a selection of offering for this country club to send out to their members. And it's a great way to do it, whether you're emerging new to that club, an existing brand, or just an emerging brand. It's a great way for the club to kind of test that with their members, see if, you know, it's something that they're going to be interested in before there even is the risk of holding that inventory. So this is an example of like a holiday site. You know, the last day to place the order was December 10th. So there's kind of that thought of that urgency also to go ahead and purchase those items. So we see a lot of brands moving towards this kind of model or working with the club to work towards this kind of model to try it out. Or we see this a lot with women's apparel and kids apparel specifically, where maybe that club sells that brand, sells the Johnny O, but doesn't have the space or the real estate maybe to sell their kids or their women's products. So they're doing this type of pop-up shop, a lot of corporate gifting this way as well. I think this one was a corporate gift here where again, there's a microsite and corporate gifting where those people can come in and just purchase those items that aren't necessarily on the floor, or maybe there's a sample of the items on the floor. You know, hey, there's a blue one, but this also comes in red, pink, yellow, orange, and green. Check out the microsite if you want a different color, that type of thing, where again, that club's not taking the risk of holding all that inventory, but the brand is still getting out there and getting noticed. And again, this could be totally new to the club. I've never done this before. I've never had this. Let's test it this way. Trunk shows are done this way as well too. Or again, hey, you know, we have a subset of that product, but we don't do maybe some fringe items or more of the fashion forward items or things like that, where that can extend that inventory. We also see brands doing something like where Linksole or True Linkswear is doing this a lot, where they have a QR code sitting at the club and the members can go in and shop, pop-up shop, shop a microsite before, again, that club's taking that risk of stocking, especially with footwear. I mean, it's not like there's a back office that can hold, you know, 18 styles and in 13 sizes and shoe boxes. So it's a great way, again, to do that product extension that may not be possible without some sort of pop-up shop microsite, something like this, where, you know, the members can log in and then they can go ahead, and just start shopping, you know, those microsites as well.
I'm seeing a small shop that's sitting here saying, well, I don't have 2,400 square feet. I'm seeing a emerging brand QR frame that every month they put a new QR code in it. It sends them to a microsite.
Yep, that's exactly right. And
it's the inventory. So that's a really cool way. You just made me think of to do that. to promote it without actually having to carry the inventory in a shop if you don't have the luxury of having the size shops that Alicia and Andrew do.
Yeah, QR code, or just, working with that new brand to send an email out to the users too. We see brands doing this a lot, also different times of the season where maybe the kids program starting in June, they're doing a summer program. So they'll work with a Garb or something like that, where maybe they don't always have those products in their shop, but they can set up a microsite where now these members whose kids are now going to be involved in this summer program can shop for, the next month or something through a website, and then, or pop-up shop, a microsite, and then it would get shipped to that clubhouse. And it's a great way for the club to also kind of test that product. Wow, we had a lot, or a lot of times, we're talking about the kids, but the moms will come in and say, this was a great blue shirt, can we have it more colors? Because we all know for kids, there's not, a lot of product out there, and sometimes for women's or men's. So it's a great way to kind of test new products without fully dipping, head first into that water and seeing if it works or not. So these are some ideas that we're seeing some of our brands doing to introduce themselves to new clubs.
Awesome, thank you. Alicia, other ways that you introduce emerging brands in your shop?
Definitely by trunk shows. I bring them in like at my ladies events. When I have men's invitational, I host the ladies for a happy hour. When I have the ladies opening day, one of my ladies does a trunk show at her home. So we go at their home and we do a big trunk show, which it's a big happy hour. We set up outside by the pool. We set up all the products out there. It's a very comfortable environment to introduce new products. This year we brought in Annie's handbags, which was a python. So it's all custom handbags. No handbag is the same. So it was a great way to introduce a line like that, which is very, it's high end. It's not really something you want to carry in the shop. So we had her come out with her python handbags. It went over very well. It was a lot of fun. The ladies had fun getting their one-of-a-kind python handbags and hearing the story behind it. So it was a great time. So doing it in an environment like that, when they're at happy hour, and not necessarily attached to while they're playing golf. I find when they're playing golf, I have difficulty getting the women to shop. But when it's attached to like an event that they're not playing golf, like the social hours, attached to the men's events where we pull them apart from the men and host them, it does really well for the ladies events. For the men, it's really just having the product in the shop. Men are not by nature big shoppers. It's whatever their wife pick out for them, really. I mean, let's be honest. So
I can attest.
You can attest to that, right? So it's whatever we have in the shop. So when I bring in new products in the shop, I usually point it out to the ladies when they come in. Oh, come over here, look at this product. It's perfect for your husband. And that's how I introduce them really on the men's side.
Andrew, how about social media? Do you use that to introduce?
Oh, yeah.
We do. We have an Oak Hill Golf Shop Instagram account that we use to post. Whether I try to post 2 to 3 times a week during the busy season. So whether it's new vendors that we're carrying, new products from vendors, or just highlighting things that I think might not be forefront when somebody steps foot in the shop. Maybe it's an item that traditionally is on a back wall that gets overlooked. I very rarely will put out, a Peter Millar short sleeve shirt on the Instagram because that's going to sell no matter what. But I want to highlight those new vendors, new products. So we do that via social media, but also like Alicia mentioned, events are big for new vendors. So this year we had a fashion show. That was the first year we've ever had a fashion show before. Next year we're going to include golf, leisure, tennis, because we have paddleball, pickleball, and tennis courts here. So we're really growing that, and I'll be inviting some brands and their reps to take part in that, as well as various ladies and youth events. So it'll be an active season.
Awesome. Are there other, or do you ever discount those when you bring in emerging brands, or do you always introduce them full price and hopefully not ever have to discount?
No, I offer little bit more than our regular. Our members get 20% off of retail typically. And when I first introduced them, I'll offer a 25% off the bat, just to get them in the door and introduced. And then after that, I'm like, well, you want to buy it now because after this, it goes to our normal member pricing of 20%.
How about you? Same thing, Andrew? Is it, or what do you do?
Our members get a 10% off of retail. So I traditionally like to stick to the 10%. I think I like to sell it at full retail if I can. And then after about 30 to 60 days, if it hasn't moved, then depending on whatever that extra strategy was, I might have one ahead of time that I either can move to another account. You know, maybe it was on wheels, so that rep will take it back. That's my preferred method. Bring in unembroidered product on wheels, and if they want it embroidered, I'll do it locally. That way I never have to discount it, and I can always send it back for a full credit. But if it is embroidered, then I'll end up offering a discount on what doesn't sell, just because, you know, that's kind of the price of bringing in a rotational vendor, some kind of emerging brand.
Okay, so now I'm going to stick with you, Andrew, since you're already talking. How do you find
Sure.
these emerging brands? Where do you go?
The PGA show is certainly a big one. I go everywhere though. So I found Calliope on RepSpark Community, who is actually, they moved from one of our trunk shows last year to our main floor this year. So we'll be putting in 2 buys for them in the summer months. But between, you know, RepSpark Community, PGA show where I walk the floor, as well as reps reaching out, you know, individually, or trusting on reps that are getting new products, you know, like Alicia mentioned earlier. Those are kind of the 3 main, introductions.
Any other ones for you?
Were you asking me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. There was a cart going by behind me. Sorry. PGA show. I know. I go to a PGA show. I go to Trends, which is West Palm show. I go to the Atlanta market, and I find a lot of emerging brands there. I know it kind of works hand in hand, but I find a lot of on Fair, which kind of works in tandem with RepSpark. And some of the brands are on both, so you can find a lot of accessories on there. But Trends kind of has a lot of the lifestyle brands that I tend to bring in. And golf. So, and I find it a lot easier to write orders at the Trends show because it's a little quieter, a little slower. And then we have our regional shows in Estero and Naples at a couple local hotels that are really easy to attend and write orders at. It's a little more quiet, a little more intimate. You can sit there, you can see the lines. They do it in the for the fall and the spring buys. And typically the Estero show is quite large. We usually have about 50 lines there, Tracy, that you can see.
Yeah.
And so I see a lot of lines there, and a lot of times the reps that come to that show have picked up new lines. And like I said, I'll find an emerging line there with a trusted rep, and I'll bring them in and give them a go.
So the Trend show that Alicia's talking about is actually in Florida, and I think there's one in Chicago. I think they have one outside of the state of Florida, but it's a retail sportswear show. But it's like high-end kind of boutique-y stuff, but there's a lot of crossover to golf, and there's a lot of golf brands there. So if you've got any local shows like that you can find in your area. And then I'm going to give a shameless AGM plug for the gift show that Alicia mentioned. They provide in January and also in July 3 nights for AGM members to go to the Atlanta gift show. In Atlanta in July, Vegas, Jennifer, in January. Is that correct? She's nodding her head. But to go to those gift shows, which is a really great way to find not only gift ideas, which Alicia talked a little bit about too, the expanding your shop there, but also apparel, because the whole market's open for that kind of thing. So those can be really important.
And I just want to dive in. It's 2 free nights at not 3 at those for AGM members.
Tracy, do you mind if I just pop in and show that community too?
Yeah,
that
was my next question.
Oh, perfect. I was going to say that way
community.
anybody can kind of see, what was referenced as well, where
Calliope or whatever he mentioned. What was it? Kaleidoscope? What did you mention, Andrew?
Yeah, Calliope, new ladies brand.
I want to see that one.
Yeah, so on the Rep Spark community, well, we can find them too. But you can always, so there's Calliope, but always at the top, there's a round robin of, featured brands, and, Sit Cups is really cool. They're a new one that just joined, and they have these really awesome tumblers that are dimpled that kind of look like golf balls. So always something here on community, not always golf. It can be different accessories and footwear and things like that as well. And then there's all the new brands that have joined. And then, trending brand. Sorry, okay, let's see. This little areas here. There we go. Okay. You always have, trending brands that are new and interesting that are coming as well. And then there's always this capability to filter. So, maybe we're looking for new golf kids brands. So you'd be able to filter by golf, and maybe I need some area with kids, or some new women's brands, or I'm looking for some new accessories. Maybe I don't even care that it's golf. Maybe I just, want to look at some new accessory companies that might be something interesting here. So there's the way to filter down to see more information about any of these brands, to see if they do men's, women's, and kids, if they're going to be at PGA, that'll be there at that as well. And then there's also some requirements there that may be interesting to see, but this is a great place to go. This is always, we're pulling in new brands all the time. And again, if you, want sunglasses or jewelry or apparel or new footwear or, something like that, it's a really easy way to kind of look and see what's out there, and then to communicate with them as well. And then, Tracy, I know you were saying in the beginning, we are doing an exclusive area for the PGA show. So any brands that will be exhibiting at PGA, we'll have this kind of little notation here. And then you'll be able to go in and see kind of an exclusive community for all those brands that are going to be there at the PGA show. So it's a great place when you're at the show. I know we're doing another webinar closer on how to use this specifically, but it's a great way to kind of connect with brands, see what's going to be there before you even go, and see what ones you may want to shop when you're there as well. So a great place to see new brands, try new brands, connect with those new brands, see, who to even connect with, and find out a little bit more information about them. We're adding the capability for them to also put a PDF catalog. So you'd be able to kind of even peruse the catalog before you connect in with them, but a great place to see new brands. And a lot of new brands are expanding just from being on here, where they're getting new clubs interested in them. Again, for whatever reason, they're trying to fill a niche, they're moving into men's or women's. And then from here, they could also access those microsites or create those microsites.
Awesome. I love the PGA part. So she referenced the seminar coming up. I had to look the date. It's January 17th, which is a Tuesday, and it's going to be about planning and working the PGA show. We'll have another panel there. Andrew's going to be back with us there because he's got this really cool floor plan. So I have another question for Andrew and Alicia. From a smaller club, not a huge 2,400 square foot shop, when you decide to bring in a new vendor to do a trunk show or an event, how much inventory are you then committed to carrying in your shop, and how can you get around that so that you don't have to carry inventory? Because for smaller facilities, that could mean excessive inventory, and if it doesn't work, they're in trouble. So what would you do, especially if it's a higher end vendor? How would you handle that? So Andrew, you first.
Yeah, I'll take it. I think you have to look at it from two perspectives. If I own the shop, I'm going to be very frugal with the money that I'm putting towards. I would probably only start with some sort of trunk show where I can see the product ahead of time. If maybe it isn't my own money and the cash flow isn't as big an issue, I might try, having one part of my floor plan, whether it's, a small 48 rack or something, where I can try it on wheels. Either way, I'm not going to have anything embroidered. I don't want to be, stuck within any kind of inventory that I would have to discount to get out of the shop. I would rather have something where it's an on wheels new vendor drop, of 48 units or 36 units if you want to try size range of like 3 to get as many possible styles out as possible. I do this in our shop now, even though we do have, quite a bit of room. Anytime I bring a new vendor in, my size runs are very, very small. I mean, 3 to 4 units, per style. For us, that's as small as that we ever go with anything. That way I can encapsulate as much of the brand as possible. So, maybe I see that the tops of one brand sell very well, but the bottoms didn't do so well. So maybe I just try the tops next time. But from a smaller club perspective, I would be very adamant that any kind of first drop would be, an on wheels consignment order.
I like the idea of not logoing it, most of
Yeah.
us, or most all clubs, well, you have to nowadays because you can't get logo product from vendors. You have a local source to get it logoed if someone desperately wants to buy it, but they have to have a logo on it. You can get that done locally. That's a really good.
Yeah,
point.
find a local embroiderer. I make bi-weekly drops to my local embroiderer that are set every Monday. And, my members at this point, we've been doing it for 2 or 3 years now. They know that if they want something embroidered, it's a 2-week turnaround and they drop it off over the weekend. And I take it on Monday and then I bring it back the following Monday. It's very, very easy once you get into that pattern.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think first and foremost, you have to make sure that you don't overcommit yourself. You have to, if it's a high-end product, don't overcommit yourself for your club. I've been caught in this before where I've bought a product and it just wasn't the right product for the right club. I've been at a club before where I thought, oh, you know what? I'm going to buy these $200 sweaters because I think these members are going to buy them. Well, they didn't buy them. So you really have to buy smart as well, regardless of the size of your club. So, just because you hear us talking about what we're buying and the amounts we're buying smart for our club. So that's the first advice I'd give. Make sure that it's a smart product, regardless of what it is. Make sure it's smart for your club. It could be the highest end product for your club, could be, Fairway and Green, or it could be Peter Millar. Every club is different. So just make sure it's smart. And negotiate with the rep. The rep wants to make a living. The rep wants to do work for you. Have it come in as a trunk show and try to negotiate. Listen, I'm going to work hard with you. I'm going to work there with you. I'm going to be at the event with you. And that's one of my platforms with the AGM is us as buyers and merchandisers working with the vendors at these events to make them successful. We know our members. It's our job to be there with you to sell the product, I feel. And Tracy can attest to this. Every time I have an event, I am there with the vendors doing my part to help sell the product. So the other piece of advice I'd give is be there. Listen to the vendor, learn about the product, and your member, you can also help sell it. Or your member, so you can help that vendor sell more and make it more successful. So I think that's another way to keep it going forward for yourself.
Yeah, if I can, real quick, Tracy, if I can piggyback off that as well from Alicia, if you're bringing in stock inventory as opposed to trunk shows, make sure that if it's any kind of technical product that the vendor provides some sort of staff training. Next year, we bring in shoes stock inventory, which is, it's a very expensive product. It's got a lot of technical and fabric components that I personally don't understand, but as a part of our stock buy, that vendor is going to do a Zoom with us, and I bring my entire staff in who's going to be the salesperson for that product for any particular day. And, it will not only allow them to know the product better, but it will allow them to communicate that product information to the end consumer. And that really is going to magnify any kind of sales that we would have done without knowing the product, right? So I would say, make sure that what you're bringing in does have that niche role, right? I keep going back to that. I think it's the most important thing. Make sure, any kind of new vendor you bring in doesn't already have what a brand that you already carry in the golf shop has. And if it does, at a better price at least. But make sure that you're smart doing that, like Alicia said.
So you just kind of answered a lot of my next question was, when do you say yes?
Oh, sorry about that.
No, that's perfect. When do you say yes? Are there other times you say yes? And when do you say no to an emerging brand? And you just went through a whole bunch of them.
Yeah, I already forgot what I said, but I look for two things most importantly, and it's product differentiation. You know, if a vendor that I already carry has a short sleeve polo at $95 and you come to me with a short sleeve polo at $95, I'm not going to jump head over heels to get you in the shop if it's the same product. Now, if it's you know, a new technical fabric that I think might be trendy, or if it's a particular print or whatever it might be, there needs to be some kind of product differentiation. Because I guarantee you I've got polyester polos in my golf shop and I don't need any more from any new brands unless it's something different. And the second is price. You know, I've got 3 tiers of price. I've got your low, mid, and high for men's and ladies. And I've got, you know, low and high for even youth at this point. But if it doesn't fit within one of those price, you know, product price combinations, you know, whether it's a high price and a decent quality product, but not great, then it doesn't stand a good chance either. It needs to fit into those price mixes.
Alicia, how about you? When do you say yes?
When do I say yes or when do I say no?
Both.
I say yes when it's something new and exciting. And for me, I mean, there's a lot of women on here, so you'll understand this. I really trust my gut. And I've done this a long time. Like 2008, I was as raw as they come with buying and merchandising. And this little product came in called Dunning. And this little guy called Ralph Dunning came walking in my golf shop. Never heard of this product, didn't know a thing about it, but there was just something about his technical fabrics at the time. They had all this stretch, they had all this stuff about them. It might have been 2007, because I was at Naples National. And I was like, there was just something about it. And I was the first golf shop in Naples to buy his product. And you all know the story now about Dunning Golf. I mean, it just took off. It was fantastic. And I just trusted myself. There was something about it. And I did the same thing with this little product called Travis Matthew in 2008 when I was at, or 2009 when I was at Mediterra. There was just something about that product that struck me. Don't know what it was, but again, you all know that story. Travis Matthew is a wildly successful product now. It's done really well. So a lot of times I trust my gut. There's just something about it. You feel it, you touch it, you look at it, and you just know there's something about that product. So that's another way I gauge it. And I can't explain it other than sometimes you just know. But the no's sometimes will come when the salesman is just a little bit too much. Sometimes they just will call incessantly. They will push too hard. And to me, that they're pushing so hard because there's something missing. And to me, there's something missing if they have to push their product that hard for me to buy it. And I can't do the push, 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 push. That's almost always a hard no for me.
Andrew, what's a no for you? I see him nodding. He's agreeing with that.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, the product is going to sell me, not the salesperson. A salesperson can certainly make a good product to look a lot better, but a bad salesman can make a good product look bad, frankly. So yes, if it's a no for me immediately, then no amount of sales is going to help that. But I would say that I say no a lot more than I say yes. You know, we get approached quite a bit with new brands, so I get the opportunity to see a lot that's out there. And I learned very quickly that it's not bad to say no, you know, because you're gonna see a lot of the same things twice. So I oftentimes take multiple meetings with the same vendor year over year to see if there's any growth. You know, if I say no the first year, I'll still accept a meeting the second year to see if there's been any kind of increase in, you know, or not increase rather, but you know, changes in the product, or if I like the way that the line is developing. So just because I say no one year doesn't mean that I'll say no the next year too. I think that's important to remember when you're dealing with, you know, new brands who are first finding out, you know, who they are as a company. But no's come a lot easier to me than yeses. I wish I had Alicia to tell me when good brands were coming through my door, because I often do not have it. I look at it from a financial standpoint, and most of the time it doesn't work for me.
So Andrew's looking at the quality, will they negotiate, where does the product distributed from, all those proper textbook things, and Alicia's going with gut. So it's kind of a male-female thing here.
Yeah, I'm gonna start, Alicia. I'm gonna start calling you. You know, when I have gut feelings that I don't know what to do with.
I have you. Call me anytime.
Megan, somewhere in the middle, does RepSpark do any kind of screening of these emerging brands that are up on your website?
I mean, there's definitely screening in the fact that, you know, they're forward enough to be able to create a tile, to have an address, to have that information, you know, to be able to, the community is free to all buyers, merchandisers, pro shops, all of that, but the brands need to be able to at least afford to be in there. We have a lower tier and then, you know, much higher tiers for bigger brands. So I think, you know, that's a testament in itself a little bit that, you know, they are forward enough to be wanting to put themselves out there to understand at least what wholesale is, and be in there. I mean, we have a lot of brands coming to us that are starting and they say, you know, we've had a bunch of our, you know, pro shops and stuff emailing us and, you know, Harleston's was a perfect one. They said, we know we need to be on RepSpark because we have all these buyers, you know, wanting to buy through RepSpark, and that's going to legitimize us to be on there and have our name on there and see it. So we don't really do a screening process. The ones that just throw, you know, put themselves up there for 2 or 3 months and then they're done because no one came to them and bought. You know, again, there's effort that these brands need to put in to reach out to you guys and let them know that they're here. But I do think there's something to say. I mean, it's just like the ones that are going to be at the PGA show, you know, they're serious about it. They want to succeed. They want to do well. They want to be better at what they're doing.
Great. I mean, I mean, a lot of their ideas are kind of outside the box, and that's one thing, you know, from being in the same area as Alicia, she's known for is being outside the box. So how far outside that box are you willing to go? And I want an example. So Megan, I'm going to start with you. When you think of all the different vendors on RepSpark, which ones would you say is the furthest outside the box of yours?
Well, I mean, we have some really outside the box ones, like we have a cigar company and some things like that. But we do have some pretty cool and unique, there's a brand called Tech that does a scope, and it's pretty cool. The Sit Cups one I think is really cool. Palm Golf had some really cool golf gloves. So it's really all over the board. But yeah, we have some really interesting outliers as well that can be found on there.
All right, we're going to save Alicia for last. Andrew, you most outside the box.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. You know, we if you couldn't tell, we stick to fairly traditional in the shop. That's tried and proven. But I will say, over the past 2 or 3 years, we've worked with a local vendor who is, you know, it's an emerging brand, new brand for us. Local vendor who takes all of the wood that we take down off of our restored championship golf course and transforms those, woodworks them into products that we sell in the golf shop. So everything from coasters to large size cutting boards to various wall hangings. I do a lot of those on a special order basis as well. So there's a really custom aspect to it. So that's about as out of the box as I can think of off the cuff.
All right, Alicia, we're all waiting for what's.
I don't know. That's great. Well, we actually we have one of our superintendents who is a woodworker, and he makes Quell West cutting boards, and we do sell those. And let's see, I do swimwear, I do sea glass jewelry, I do flip flops, I do toys, I do let's see, what else do I do? Undergarments, sports bras.
I keep thinking of these snarky sayings that are all over your golf.
Oh,
I don't know why.
Congratulations on your divorce. We hated him. I do. Yes, I do have a person there that says that. I have sold out of it. I do funny glasses.
No kidding.
Yes, I do funny glasses. I do like tumblers, and I do funny sayings on the tumblers that are outside of the box. They range from anywhere that say Christmas sayings like "I hate mornings" and people, and anything like that. Anything that's funny. I did bring in the G4 Can't Break Effing Par t-shirts, and I did sell through those in the back room. I did not put them on the floor. It was a back room sell.
Those are on the front table, right, for all to see?
Yes, front and center. So I do anything that has, I do have cups in there right now that have, my dog and I talk shit about you. It does say that. And they're up high where kids can't read them. So my members love funny stuff, and they have twisted humor like that. So they sell very well. So I have about 10 tumblers in there that currently have humorous sayings, and I'll sell through them about 4 times over. And purses that have funny sayings that'll sell about 10 times over.
You gotta have someone to sell that stuff, but
Yeah, talk about knowing your demographic. That's pretty good. I'd call that a niche role for a product right there.
Yeah, they sell through every time. Yeah, they'll come in and say, "Where's the funny stuff?" Top corner, look up high. Yeah,
so,
that way the kids don't read it.
so a huge thank you, Megan, to RepSpark for all your support for the AGM over the last couple of years as one of our premier sponsors, and all these great webinars. And somehow you keep coming up with great ideas for them. So love the idea sharing. And Andrew and Alicia, wonderful ideas. And I hope that some of our smaller clubs can take away from here some great ideas, and at least have ideas where to start to look. And we've got information up on the screen. I hope it's showing where the RepSpark is to get onto the community. Signed up there, and remember, if you haven't already signed up for the AGM conference, to do that, and we'll see you all in Orlando. But before that, have a wonderful holiday season, and thank you everyone for joining us today.
One.
Yeah,
Hey.
Thank you.
everyone.